Going forward on NATO.international website, what initially started the North Atlantic Treaty, Washington, D.C. It was signed on 4th April 1949, a long time ago. It's a 5-minute read and in English because there are multiple languages. The parties to this treaty reaffirm their faith in the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations and their desire to live in peace with all peoples and all governments. They are determined to safeguard the freedom, common heritage, and civilization of their peoples, founded on the principles of democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. They seek to promote stability and well-being in the North Atlantic area. They are resolved to unite their efforts for collective defense and for the preservation of peace and security. They therefore agree to this North Atlantic Treaty. Now that's the preamble, the introduction. We're going to read the rest of it as well. Article 1. The parties undertake, as set forth in the Charter of the United Nations, to settle any international dispute in which they may be involved by peaceful means, in such a manner that international peace and security and justice are not endangered, and to refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force of any manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations. Article 2. The parties will contribute toward the further development of peaceful and friendly international relations by strengthening their free institutions, by bringing about a better understanding of the principle upon these institutions are founded, and by promoting conditions of stability and well-being. They will seek to eliminate conflict in their international economic policies and will be encouraged economic collaboration between any or all of them. Article 4. The parties will consult together whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of the parties is threatened. Article 5. The parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all, and consequently they agree that if such an armed attack occurs, each of them, in exercise of the right of individual or collective self-defense recognized by the Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, will assist the party or parties so attacked, taking forthwith, individually and in concert with the other parties, such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force, to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. Any such armed attack and all measures taken as a result thereof shall immediately be reported to the Security Council. Such measures shall be terminated when the Security Council has taken the measures necessary to restore and maintain the international peace and security. Article 6. You've got a one for reference up there. For the purposes of Article 5, an armed attack on one or more parties is deemed to include an armed attack. And one on the territory of any of the parties in the Europe or North America, on the Algerian departments of France, or on the territory of Turkey, or on the islands under the jurisdiction of any of the parties in the North Atlantic area north of the Tropic of Cancer. Secondly, on the forces, vessels, or aircrafts of any of the parties when in or over these territories or any other area in Europe in occupation forces of any parties which were stationed on the date with a treaty entered into the force of the Mediterranean Sea or North American Atlantic north of Tropic Cancer. Article 7. This treaty does not affect and shall not be interpreted as affecting in any way the rights and obligations under the Charter of the parties which are the members of the United Nations, or the primary responsibility of the Security Council for the maintenance of the international peace and security. Article 8. Each party declares that none of the international engagements now in force between it and in any other of the parties of any of the third state is in conflict with the provisions of this treaty, and undertakes not to enter into any international engagement in conflict with this treaty. Article 9. The parties hereby establish a council on which each of them shall be representative to consider the matters concerning with implementation of this treaty. The council shall be so organized as to be able to meet promptly at any time. The Council shall set up as subsidiary bodies as may be necessary. In particular, it shall establish immediately a defense committee in which it shall recommend measures for the implementation of Article 3 and 5. Article 10. The parties may, by unanimous agreement, invite any other European state in a position to further the principles of this treaty and to contribute to the security of North Atlantic area to accede to this treaty. Any state so invited may become a party to the treaty by depositing by an instrument of accession with the government of the United States of America. The government of the United States of America will inform each of the parties of the deposit of each such instrument of accession. Article 11. This treaty shall be ratified and its provisions carried out by the parties in accordance with the respective constitutional processes. The instruments of ratification shall be deposited as soon as possible with the government of the United States of America, which will notify all other signatories of each deposit. The treaty shall enter into force between the states which have ratified it as soon as the ratification of the majority of the signatories, including the ratifications of Belgium, Canada, France, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, and the United States, have been deposited and shall come into effect with respect to other states on the date of their deposit of ratification. Article 12. After the treaty has been in force for 10 years, or at any time thereafter, the parties shall, if any of them so request, consult together for the purpose of reviewing the treaty, having regard for the factors that affecting the peace and the security of the North Atlantic area, including the development of the universal as well as the regional arrangements under the Charter of the United Nations for the maintenance of the international peace and security. Article 13. After the treaty has been in force for 20 years, and any party that may cease to be a party 1 year after its notice of denunciation has been given to the government of the United States of America, which will inform the governments of the other parties of the deposit of each notice of denunciation. Lastly, the articles. Article 14, this treaty, of which the English and French text are equally authentic, it's very important, shall be deposited in the archives of the government of the United States of America. Duly certified copies will be transmitted by that of the government to the governments of other signatories. Reference 1 and 2, or reference 1, the definition of territories in which Article 5 applies, was revised by Article 2, the Protocol of the North Atlantic Treaty on the accession of Greece and Turkey, signed on 22 October 1951. 2. On January 16, 1963, the North Atlantic Council noted that insofar as the former Algerian departments of France were concerned, the relevant cause of this treaty had become inapplicable as from July 3, 1962. Lastly, third mark was the treaty came into force on 24 August 1949 after the deposition of the ratifications of all signatory states. Now you know. Read your history, kids. Love you, love you.